Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. A very happy and incredibly excited BTO Pro. I just want you to know that video games are awesome and you should play the new HAXTheWeb.org game. So you may have noticed there's HAX challenge off on the side. So let's play that. Oh gosh, it's already started. What are we gonna do? Okay, I have to hit edit, and that took 2.98 seconds to do. Okay, I need to find a video on YouTube. I don't even care what it is. Let's hit better. Okay, sweet, I did that. Okay, let's go to find. Let's go to NASA. I need to put in a meme. Let's do that meme. Meme. Okay, so then we insert the meme. Okay, cool. Then we need to go and delete an original paragraph here. Let's go and delete this paragraph. Oh, paragraph's not binding. Oh, there we go. We got it on that delete. Let's add, save. Boom! High score. Achievement unlocked. You got all 7 challenges. Am I using enough caps lock yet or yelling? I can yell louder. So, I'm going to tweet my score right now, and I think you should too. So what the heck was that? What just happened? That is what I get a lot, and that's kind of what the effect we're going for right now. So, let's look at how we built the HAX challenge, because you're probably saying, wow, Brian, that's clearly not in the scope of your job. Why did you work on this? Well, it's actually a really great example of how you can extend HAX and implement it in other things. So let's look at what that is doing. So I am using other elements in this, the silly HAX game element. So think of this as like your hello world for writing some complex integration with HAX. So I have a simple timer, I have a layout element which does the modal, and I have a to-do list. I actually made a to-do list video. I still got to publish that because there wasn't a to-do list. It's weird. So then breaking down the element, we've got a paper card, which means I should probably put in a reference to paper card. It's kind of screwed that up now, didn't I? So we'll put in the reference to paper card. It worked anyway because that reference was already on the page. So I've got some text. I've got a simple timer element, which is hidden. It's told to count up, and it's told to max out at 60. I don't know why they have the start time. It's a poor variable name. But this is a cool use of two-way data binding in this case. So current time from the element is actually going to influence the timer value inside this element. Then timer is going to be used all around, which is how I'm able to get these timestamps. Right? So I know this because I'm reading off of this value, but it was set by, there's a little invisible element somewhere around here. So then HAX text is a string value that basically takes whatever the time is and truncates it to 0.00 values. And so then HAX text value is in the page and data bound to the heading. That's why you see this count up. See how it's at 000, and I hit play, and it starts running. That's what's going on there. As far as that play button, right, to kick off this operation, well, we've got a play button, which is just a paper button. Again, with this silly thing here, we want to make sure we're consistent. So paper button up top. All right, and then when I click the button, and on tap of it, I'm going to run a simple function that says, are we already playing? No. Okay, well, then set playing to true. So this is some really basic state management type of stuff here, right? So I have playing, and then whenever we're playing, then we have an observer that notices that playing the game has changed state. And when playing the game has changed state, we run a function that says, hey, if we're now playing, then I need you to set, and our team has been doing this, everybody's really enjoying it. This isn't like a real convention, but whenever there's a value that is not data bound anywhere else in Polymer, and I screwed up with score, we don't really need to do it with score, but whenever we're using a value we don't really want people to have access to, that's kind of the convention we're using, is a double underscore there. But so let me find that play button again, sorry. So whenever we play button, and then we go from play button to play game, I have a list of tasks, and then I do a this.push into tasks. Now this is a little bit different syntax. It's worth noting because I had a ton of problems with this. This is different than this, and in a key way. So when you do this.tasks.push, that's the pure JavaScript way of pushing an element onto an array. When you do this.push, this is the Polymer-based way of pushing an element onto the array, in which Polymer is going to manage the data binding and say, oh, I got to make sure tasks is correctly updated. Give me the values. So if you want to just update data underneath Polymer, right, and you don't need it reflected to the DOM, this would be the way to do that. I've actually finally run into a use case where you would intentionally want to do that. Generally speaking, though, you're going to want to roll with this.push. So then I add all these events on, which are tasks, and then if we go back up to the top, we see tasks are two-way data bound into something called to-do and to-do's items, which then, as you can imagine, the to-do list unpacks, and that's how I generate this list. This is a to-do list with buttons that are disabled, so you can't cheat and click them, although I'm sure you could figure out how. And reset. All right, so how do we do the reset button? Reset button, very basic, right? Just take that stuff and move it back to starting point values. So how do we do those noticing what's going on? So this is the integration with HAX piece. So when we attach this silly HAX game to the DOM, we're going to add an event listener to the highest level, right? So up to the body, but it's going to reference something down in here in this object, so that we know that the event can be monitored maybe way up here in the tree, and we're down here, but we say, hey, append to the tree, but notice us. And so then when the body gets a HAX body tag added, then verify action, and we can see in here, then I say, okay, well, if we're playing the game and if it's started, because you could pause, then we want to see if the node we just got is a video player tag. And if it is, then we're going to set that initial task, that task.1, the first real task we have to go and accomplish. We're going to set that to true, which is going to check the box, and then we're going to get this label added to it. Similar to the this.push, you have this.set, and this is going to make sure in Polymer that it correctly reflects to the DOM that this object position is updated. It's actually an array with an object in it, so it's nested. If you don't use this, there are other ways to get that information notified, but they're kind of a pain in the butt. So that's how we did the video player. Now, how I knew to do that is in HAX body, we have a mutation observer. And in this mutation observer, we're looking at the nodes that go into body. And so whenever a node that is valid, right, so this is it passes the HAX element test. Whenever a node is added, we set some attributes, and then we go along our way and we insert it into the DOM. But we also fire an event up in case anybody cares about the fact that this got added. Similar with removed. Whenever something's removed, we fire an event up like, hey, okay, let's just make sure that was there. So if we go to silly HAX game then on the removed and verifying this action, you can see, hey, in e.detail, we're going to have the node, and then node, we can get tag name, and that's how we do the meme maker. It's how we detect that you add or delete a P paragraph, and that's also how we get the video player. Then starting and stopping are really easy. That's just basic state management. And so if we look at start and stop, we have property updated. And so on here, there's HAX store property updated. So we've got this kind of object hanging out up here, this kind of the controlling brain of the universe, if you will. And whenever anybody wants to update stuff there, this message gets broadcast globally. And then anyone that has effectively subscribed to this event and said, hey, I care about those, then you can call your own function. So in this case, it's going to notice all of the things that register in that case, but the only one it's going to react to is edit mode. So if edit mode is changed and we're playing and the game has started and it's a true value and we haven't obtained, or there is a label in the first thing, there's like an edge case where that's possible to not happen, then we want to set that first step to true, and again with the label. Similarly, in reverse, we want to say, well, if the value we just got is false and we're playing, then I need you to go through and check the box on that last item. However, then I want you to stop the timer and I want to verify if they won. So we go in here, we set a temporary value that's mirrored off of tasks, and we say, okay, well, the default case is they've won. Let's check and see otherwise. So if any of these steps and tasks are false, then they didn't win. If the timer hit 0, then they ran out of time. So push on to score this additional message saying, oh, you lost, and make sure that they didn't win. Or if they didn't win, then say, hey, you didn't complete everything because you didn't win above. Or whether or not you have much success, meaning that you did everything in question here. So then we open the modal, which is easy enough, and then we do another one of these little silly using the data binding system, right? So I can data bind to this even though it's not in my properties object. It's a nice little trick that you can use. And so I can data bind directly from JavaScript back up to there without having to go through the properties, in Polymer directly. And that's how you get your message with your little Twitter type of a thing at the end. So yeah, it's a pretty neat little game. Another big deal, really big deal, is that now we can do array-based data binding. And if you've seen me tweeting about this like crazy, or Nikki responding, oh my gosh, this changes everything, it really does. So now we can pull in some more complex types of elements. Let's just do a task list. So a task list has tasks, but a task is a composite. And so now I can do this and add the link.com or whatever. And then I can add more of them. And I'm going to have correct data binding and management between them. Then what this ends up looking like is like in the task list item. Let's look at why this is such a big deal under the hood. So got our task list item, and task list is just a DOM repeat. I think I showed this previously. It's just going to loop over the things passed into tasks, and it's going to print them. So if we scroll down through here, let's look at the HAX data binding for this. So we've got name, we've got a related resource. Those aren't big deals. Configuration form, we've got name and related resource. But now with tasks, we've got an array. And now off of that, we can define properties. And basically, we've nested this type of capability into this one element in a way that it can be stamped down an infinite number of times. So in properties, then I'm saying, okay, well, give me a name and a link as a composite array item. This is a huge deal for the types of elements you could build, right? You could easily build an image gallery now, and then you would have images, and the images could have title, and they could have alt text, and they could have a URL, and then I could click 4 times and then reference 4 images, and now my template binding can update and I have an image gallery. Drastically increases the level of complexity of what you can build, again, with very little effort. So I've got this, my steps to completion. I'll insert that into the DOM, and then I can recall it back here. I can add more items to it, stamp it back into the DOM. I can hit export, I can hit import, and I will have the exact thing that I did before. And that was not a trivial task by any means, but now it is. Let's make another one real quick. This one's getting more education specific. So this is a question. So is HAX amazing? And so the answers to that will be yeah, that is correct. Not really, but not really isn't correct. And you also notice it's shuffling over there based on randomization flag being set. And 100% and completely. So I can set 2 correct answers. Now the other fun thing with this, let's set feedback is you knew HAX rocked. Okay, or go away. I could also set some more advanced things like the reset label. Let's make that try again and verify response or something, right? So now I can actually play with this over here in this preview. So I can hit verify response. Nope, got it wrong. It's got my custom text. 100% agree, and oh yeah, nah, I knew you rocked it. Or if I'm missing one, hey, you're still missing one. Or I could try again, and it'll reset the board. And it'll shuffle because of randomize. So insert that in the page, and now I just made a little quiz or whatever you want to call it, right? A self-check so that someone can verify that they understand this information. Call this back out, export, import again, and go down, and we have the exact same thing. 100%, oh yeah, verify response, HAX rocked it. So this is a massive deal as far as what we can now build as a result of this, right? If you wanted a grid of color pickers, I don't know why you'd want that, but you could actually implement a grid of color pickers by basically just saying, yeah, I want the user to be able to pick colors. Look forward over the next few days and weeks. We're going to start really seeing what we can do with this. One thing very easily, this at the top of the interface, you may have noticed, is actually kind of not part of HAX. So like I can't go up there and select it because it's below this line. This dividing line is actually where HAX body is. But with this new approach, I'm going to be able to take this, which is a paper tabs item. I'm going to be able to make something that's like tabs container. And then you're going to be able to use HAX to generate these tabs. We're going to start being able to pretty much build whole websites with this within the next few months, at least on the front end, obviously. So very excited. Happy Friday.